The camera sat alone on a mossy trail marker in the North Cascades. Heavy, antique, its glass lens staring at me like a dead eye. I'm a ranger. I know these woods, but this felt wrong. Still, I picked it up. Back at the station, the film developed into 24 beautiful shots of wilderness. And then, one more. The 25th photo showed a twisted figure fleeing through the pines, its mouth frozen in a silent scream. Behind it, something impossibly tall, head bent at a broken angle, calmly giving chase. The timestamp? Tomorrow, 3:17 p.m., the exact time of my next patrol. My name is Eli, and the Gifford-Pinchot National Forest is my church. I know its serene trails and its hidden, treacherous ravines. I've spent a decade as a backcountry ranger, and in all that time, I'd never found anything truly out of place. Lost hikers, yes. A discarded beer can occasionally, but never something that felt like a deliberate violation of the natural order. The old Yashica Mach 124G camera was that violation. It wasn't lost. It was placed, waiting. My rational mind concocted a dozen explanations. A forgotten prop from a photo shoot, a geocacher's odd prize. But the woods felt different that day. The birds were too quiet. The air was too still, holding its breath. Picking up that camera was like picking up a venomous snake, mistaking its cold, coiled stillness for lifelessness. I'd just invited the bite. The camera felt like a lead weight in my pack on the hike back to the outpost. Every creak of a branch, every snap of a twig under my boot sounded like a shutter click. I told myself I was being ridiculous, spooked by the eerie silence of the woods and the oddness of the find. At my small, cluttered station, I carefully pried open the film compartment. The roll inside was a common brand, but the casing was slightly rusted, as if it had been waiting there for years, not days. I developed it in my makeshift darkroom, the chemical smells usually calming to me. But as the images emerged in the dim red light, a cold knot tightened in my stomach. The first few were stunning landscapes, professional grade. But the shadows in them were too deep, too detailed. In one of a cascading waterfall, a shape was visible in the mist, an elongated silhouette that didn't match any rock formation I knew. The photo felt like a warning label on a beautiful poison. I laid the photos out on my desk under the lamplight. 24. All wilderness shots, all technically perfect, yet deeply unsettling. The composition in each was slightly off, the focus pulling your eye not to the majestic vista, but to a dark corner of the frame where something seemed to be lurking just out of sight. Then my fingers brushed against another print, stuck to the back of the last one, the 25th. It was a chaotic smear of grainy black and white. A person, their face a mess of blurred fear, was sprinting, arms flailing, and behind them, towering over the ferns, was the thing. It was a grotesque parody of a man, 7 feet tall and whip-thin, its limbs jointed, all wrong. Its head was tilted a full 90 degrees, and it moved with a terrible, gliding grace, effortlessly keeping pace. It wasn't looking at its prey. It was looking directly into the camera lens, and it was smiling. The timestamp in the corner was Qingxi Kujin, 10/27/1517. Tomorrow, my usual patrol time at the North Creek Loop. I spent the night in a cold sweat, the photo propped against a coffee cup, its horrifying subject forever staring at me. I radioed in, mumbling about a stomach bug, canceling my patrol. Cowardice, hot and shameful, washed over me. What if it was real? What if someone was out there right now needing my help? The rational part of my brain, now a tiny, shriveled thing, whispered hoax, Photoshop, a sick joke. At exactly 3:17 p.m., a static-laden emergency signal screeched from my radio. It was a personal locator beacon activated on the North Creek Loop. A voice, shredded by interference and pure panic, gasped 2 words. Real. Before the transmission cut into the sound I'll never forget. The sound of dry, splintering wood and a high, wet giggle. I was out the door, rifle in hand, before I even knew what I was doing, the photograph burning a hole in my pocket. I had to know. The North Creek Loop was a tomb. The vibrant, living green of the forest was gone, replaced by a muted gray palette, as if the life had been sucked out of it. The air was dead still and cold. I found the origin of the signal quickly. A crushed personal locator beacon lay in the middle of the path. Next to it was a brand new, high-end digital camera, its screen shattered. A few feet away, a single hiking boot lay on its side. There were no screams, no cries for help, just an oppressive, watching silence. I raised my rifle, scanning the dense thickets of pine. Nothing. Then, a soft click sounded from right behind me. I spun around. There was nothing there. But on the ground, where there had been nothing before, sat another antique camera, an old Polaroid. And from its front slot, a photograph was slowly, mechanically ejecting itself into the silent air. I didn't want to look. Every instinct told me to run, to leave this cursed place and never return. But the camera was still whirring, the photograph sliding out like a snake's tongue. I snatched it up. It was still developing, the image a murky chemical green. It was a picture of this very spot on the trail, taken from just a few feet away. And in the center of the frame was me, my back to the viewer, my body tense as I looked down at the ground. The image was chillingly accurate, a perfect replica of this exact moment. But as the photo developed further, details solidified. Behind me, partially obscured by a tree but perfectly visible, was the Thin Man. He was much closer than in the first photo. He was leaning down, his broken neck head brought level with mine, his long, thin fingers reaching out, about to tap me on the shoulder. The timestamp on the white border read 10:23, 6 minutes from now. Time froze. The forest's silence became a physical pressure on my eardrums. I could feel it. A presence, a cold spot in the world directly behind me. I could smell it. A scent of old soil, dried fungus, and something metallic. I didn't dare turn. The photo was a promise, a death sentence. My eyes darted around, looking for anything, any way to break the prophecy. The Polaroid camera on the ground continued to whir softly. An idea, insane and desperate, sparked. I slowly, so slowly, raised my rifle, but not to turn and shoot. Instead, I used the polished barrel as a mirror. Angling it, I could see the reflection of the space behind me. It was there, the elongated torso, the wrong-angled limbs, the head tilted sideways. Its face was a blank stretch of skin, featureless, except for a single, grotesquely wide slash of a mouth, curled into a smile. It was standing so still, waiting for its cue, waiting for 3:23. The numbers on my watch clicked over to 15:23. The thing's hand, pale and branch-like, began to move in the reflection, stretching toward my shoulder. This was it. Instead of turning, I dropped and rolled forward, the movement sudden and frantic. A dry, rustling sound of displeasure hissed through the trees behind me.
I didn't look back. I scrambled for the Polaroid camera on the ground, my heart hammering against my ribs. I didn't know if it could be stopped, but it was obsessed with the pictures. As my fingers closed around the cold plastic, a searing pain lanced up my leg. A long, thin hand had wrapped around my ankle, its grip like iron bands. It began to pull, dragging me backward into the deepening shadows of the pines. I kicked and screamed, clawing at the dirt, and with my last ounce of strength, I smashed the Polaroid camera against a rock. The dragging stopped. The grip on my ankle vanished. The forest sounds rushed back in. Birds, wind, the thrum of life, a deafening roar after the silence. I was alone. I scrambled back to the outpost, locked